Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Apex TV. Today we have a very special guest on the program with us. We're actually doing an interview with a man who claims to be from the year 4126. He wants to go by the name Slim. So, hello, Slim. Welcome to Apex TV. How are you doing?
Thank you. I'm doing well today.
That's good. So, right off the bat, how about we talk about your journey and just about you? Um, how did you How did you first get involved in time travel in the year 4126?
In the year 4126, time travel has become very common, and there's two real ways of doing it. There's the commercial way and then the military way. I got involved in the military way because I was deemed intelligent and highly adaptable to social situations. So they thought that I was able to fit in well with people and that I would fit in really well back in the year 2017
Mm-hmm.
because people back then were very social and things like that. And a lot of social changes were happening in these years, and they thought that I would be able to handle that well.
Interesting. That makes sense. So you came back to the year 2017. This was just kind of a personal question. I was wondering if you met any of your past relatives, like, I don't know, your great 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 grandfather or something.
No, we're not allowed to interact with our past family members.
Oh, okay. Do you know who they are? Have you ever seen any of them, or?
I know who they are, but I purposely avoid those people.
Okay. Well, jumping ahead to the year 4126, I wanted to ask you, what is the average human lifespan?
The average human lifespan in 4126 is about 400 years.
Okay. May I ask how old are you?
I am currently 56-ish, but the that's it's a complicated answer because of a technology that I'll tell you about more later in the interview.
Okay. So you're here in the year 2017. You have to survive on something. What are you doing right now for income in 2017?
In 2017, the way that I'm functioning is this physical body is actually 21 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And the way that works is, there it is. Okay. Life extending technology in 4126 include a machine that can make your body regress into a younger state a certain number of times. But the human mind can only store a certain amount of information, and eventually the mind gets too old to function.
Mm-hmm.
I had said on Monday that the average life expectancy of humans is roughly 400 years. That is not due to the human body not being able to regress more than 4 times. It is due to the following. The human mind can only go for so many years without slowly deteriorating. The human mind simply cannot hold itself together forever. Eventually, it breaks down and the human begins to go insane. This is when the human is deemed unfit for continuation and they get dealt with.
Okay.
I'm not sure you want to hear about that, though.
Yeah.
What I know you will want to hear about is how this technology is developed. The technology actually comes from studying jellyfish. There are jellyfish on Earth that can live out a long life, then can force its own body to revert back to a younger
Yeah,
state.
I've heard about that jellyfish. I think it's called the
What we
immortal
what we
jellyfish
essentially
or
did,
something.
something like that. I don't remember what the actual name for the jellyfish
Yeah.
is, but even today, scientists are studying those jellyfish.
Yeah.
Essentially, what we did is we took this ability and found a way to apply it to humans. I'm not sure how exactly, because I was not trained to be a biologist. I was trained to be a dispatch and tactical commander as well as a combat specialist.
Mm-hmm.
This is actually how we plan our long-term agents here in the field, such as me. How I was personally planted was that I and others of similar intelligence and personality traits have been chosen to go back in time to receive brief and work with all of our agents that come through to the past. I'm not allowed to tell you how the training and facilitation of that works, but I am allowed to reveal certain aspects of how the technology is done in our time.
Okay.
Some of the things that how it works is it's a blank white room with nothing inside except for a chair to lay down on, much
So
like
this is
the
how.
Alexander.
Let me just stop you. So this is how time travel itself works. How you traveled back
No,
in
no, no.
time.
This is how the process of reverting to a younger state works.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. There's a chair inside that looks much like the Alexander Krivoshew anti-gravity chair you see today. And I'll show you a picture of that real quick.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure what that
Um,
is.
yeah, I'll show you, and that's actually already been developed.
Okay.
And that is this here.
Interesting.
That chair, yeah, it looks very similar to that chair, but without the base here.
Okay.
That's what you sit in when you get into the room.
Yeah, and why can't you show us any pictures of the actual machine itself or the room?
Because if I showed you pictures of the actual machine itself, someone would either try to replicate it or someone would steal the idea of how to build it that way, and then the original architect of the device would not be able to do that.
Yeah, yeah, I understand. It would cause too much of a negative impact on the future.
Exactly.
Okay.
And so yeah, so after that, a bright light comes on from all six surfaces of the room, the walls and ceiling and floor. Then when you can't see anything anymore, it turns off and your vision slowly comes back. After about 20 minutes of waiting for your vision to stop being grayish and all that, you start to see color, and then another 10 minutes after that, your vision finishes refocusing and adjusting to its new age. And then you'll be able to see that your body is reverted back to its younger self.
Hmm.
The way I was planted was that I was sent in and reverted back to an infancy and then planted in a family that would otherwise not have had children.
Okay.
And so me and other deep cover agents officially are adopted, but
Hmm.
really were planted into our families.
So, do you have knowledge of this? Did you have knowledge as an infant that you were a time traveler?
Yes. Well, I had already lived out to be about 32,
Hmm.
and then I was reverted back to infancy so that I could be planted back into a family in 2017 to carry out the missions and responsibilities needed
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
the government of my time.
So, in the future, couldn't someone hypothetically just keep going back to that infant stage and just essentially live forever?
Well, that's the technically yes, but after
Okay.
a certain amount of time, your mind would, like I said before, after a certain amount of time, your mind would break down and you would become insane.
Oh, I understand. Yeah. Okay.
But yes, the physical body could theoretically live forever.
Yeah, but the problem is that the mind itself is what
Exactly.
deteriorates. Okay. So you haven't found any way to yeah, you told me in our past interview, and for everybody watching this, be sure to check out our past interview with this guy from the year 4126. We have it up on our YouTube channel. I highly recommend you take a look at it. But in our last interview, you talked about the process of time traveling. Could you just go over that again? Um, how you time traveled?
All right. So the process of actual time travel is much like some of the videos that you've seen, and one of the videos was here. I actually have it written down somewhere. Well, I can't find it right now, but it is
Okay.
it's the one in front of the storefront where the man seems to phase through the door.
Oh
Do you,
yeah, yeah. I think I've seen that one. The kind of
yeah.
green security footage.
Yes,
Yeah.
and it looks like as he's passing through the door, it kind of does like a staticky look,
Mhm.
and it flashes between 2016 and 2019.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yes, that video, that's actual time travel, and that's how it looks from the outside perspective. The
Okay.
way it feels is it feels like you're getting moved very, very quickly.
Mhm.
And this is shown in another video that you guys have of a man that seems to be moving through people inside of a stadium of some sorts. And so so
Yeah.
that's what happens on the going side of it is your body speeds up and you go very quickly,
Okay.
and then it opens up like what I can only describe as a sort of portal,
Mhm.
and then you move through that into the next period of time.
So have you pinpointed in the future how to time travel back to specific geographical locations? Like can you plug in coordinates per se and go exactly to those coordinates?
Yes, we can.
Okay. How about the technology involved in the time traveling?
All right. The technology involved. I actually wrote a section on that. Time
Okay.
machine history. So time machines, when they were first invented, were dangerous and huge. Only the government used them, and only for military purposes. There were these massive tubes. They look like gigantic hyperbolic chambers back from your time,
Mhm.
with hundreds of wires and pipes and other such things protruding from the sides and door. They took up entire rooms and required electrical power equal to that of a lightning strike to power it on and make a jump. Then in the year 2028, the government officially announced the invention of time travel after they figured out how to master it, or how to make it smaller
Mhm.
and commercially safe. James, one of the people that you interviewed,
Yep.
I know him as Agent 12.
Okay. So
He
do you
was sent
personally
back.
know this guy?
No, but I've given him orders before.
Okay.
Agent 12 was sent back from his time period when there were two options for the methods of time travel. He already explained those in his interview, and those are up on your YouTube channel.
Yep, you can check that out.
Disappearing. What?
Yeah, I'm just telling the viewers that they can check that video out. Time Traveler from 2028, I think.
Yes, exactly. The disappearing plane video from another one of your YouTube videos.
Yeah.
Is one of the commercial time flights.
Okay.
So that's how time travel works commercially. That's what it looks like.
So isn't that an issue, though, for people who just look up in the sky? And what if somebody sees it, like a civilian from 2017?
If a civilian from 2017 saw that in the sky and started to tell people that he saw a disappearing plane, everyone would just assume he was insane.
Yeah, and even if they recorded video footage, like someone presumably did, and sent it to us, they just think it was edited.
Exactly.
Okay. So that explains a lot. And a lot of people are likewise gonna think that you're making up a story for attention or something. But how would you address those people?
I would address those people in the following manner. I'm not trying to convince everybody that I'm telling the truth.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just trying to send a message so that those people that are going to listen can be prepared for what's coming.
I see. And I see you've prepared some notes with you. Did you prepare those notes in the future?
Some of them I prepared in the future.
Okay.
On things that I just need to remember for myself and for the agents coming through, and then other pieces of the notes have been sent to me from my boss back in my time.
Mm-hmm. So we've interviewed a couple people who claim to be time travelers, and you say you are actually their, so to speak, their hire, their boss?
Some of them, yes.
Okay. Would you mind talking about some of those?
Sure. So the protocol here, once an agent gets to this side, they check in with me, and they get what we usually call it is a gear pack. So that has the hoodies that you see in most of your videos, the time traveling device that I brought back from my time, because the ones from their time are usually not nearly as effective and nearly as efficient or anything else. And so I give them one of the ones from our time. Mm-hmm. And then they also get a list of orders and places, and a list of what's the word you guys call it? Safe houses. Safe houses. Yes, they get a list of safe houses where they can stay if they need a place to stay,
okay,
or if they need supplies or anything else.
So are you currently staying in a safe house?
I am.
Okay. I was just wondering one thing about the future. Do you have to sleep in the future?
Yes, we do. We sleep a lot less often than you guys do.
Okay.
Only about every other day.
Oh, okay. And why is that? Just to free up more time in your day, doing more productive things?
Yeah. In the next 1,000 years or so, humans will slowly start to sleep a little bit less every day, mm-hmm, until they get to the point where they're only sleeping every other day. Interesting.
Is that a biological evolutionary thing, or is that aided by...
Yes, it is.
Oh, it is biological. Okay.
Yes, it is. That's why it takes 1,000 years to complete the process.
Yes, because the year 4126 is 2,109 years in the future. So that is quite
exactly.
a bit of time. So how about in the future, how common is it for somebody to time travel? Like, how about a normal civilian?
Time flights are just as common as, like, there are whole companies like United is today, mm-hmm, that are just time flights.
Wow.
Like, there are airports for it, and, but they're not airports like what you have. They're more very skinny, very tall buildings, that have lots and lots of, like, I can only describe as like ports, kind of like what you see in movies.
Yeah.
And those ports usually have a place where the plane can take off and land.
Mm-hmm. Is it very expensive?
Sometimes some of the time periods are very expensive and others are not. The farther you go, the more expensive it gets.
Okay. And speaking of money, is there a universal income in the future?
There is one form of currency, and that is the Bitcoin, because it's the only type of currency that cannot be hacked or copied.
Yeah.
But there's no form of paper money or credit cards or anything like that. It's all handprint.
Okay.
Because individual fingerprints, we discovered, can sometimes match another person's individual fingerprints,
Mm-hmm.
but a set of fingerprints never match.
Okay, yeah, that's a good idea. How are living conditions in the future for most civilians on Earth?
Living conditions in the future on Earth are crowded. For
Okay.
one, cities are super dense. Uh, there is no short buildings.
Mm-hmm.
Everything is extremely tall. Everything is very close together. Instead of whole streets, for the sidewalks, you only have the width you would have a sidewalk be in your time. But imagine if that sidewalk was the entire space between the left side of the street and the right side of the street.
Oh, I see. But what about vehicles?
The vehicles move on giant highways. I would have to describe them as. I
Uh-huh.
mean, that's the only word I can think of that could describe them in your time.
Yeah.
But imagine if highways were made of completely made of glass, and were electric,
Mm-hmm.
and all the cars just glided along the highway
Fascinating. So,
wheels.
is there a current running through those glass highways that powers the cars?
Yeah, you can actually
Okay.
see the wires on the sides of the highways
Interesting. So the
that
cars,
actually power.
so the cars themselves don't have any form of power.
The cars do have a form of power,
Mm-hmm.
but they the power from the highways is a magnet, and the way vehicles work is maglev train technology is much more
Oh,
advanced.
I see. So, what's a top speed for a vehicle, average vehicle?
About 600 miles an hour.
Okay.
Yeah, every single vehicle in the future is driven by an AI specifically programmed to be a perfect driver.
Okay. So, what do you plug in the coordinates of where you want to go, and it'll automatically take you?
Exactly.
Okay. Do people own vehicles in the future, or do people
Yes, they do.
generally use public transport?
The wealth gap is very large in the future. So
Okay.
the 1% do own vehicles,
Hmm.
but everybody else uses public transportation. But the public transportation has improved immensely since your time.
Okay. Tell me about the government in the future. Is there voting on specific issues, or?
There is voting, but the voting is done a lot more fairly, I would say, than
Okay.
it is now. Nowadays, how it works is you put in your votes, and then your representative decides. It's like I think like the electoral college
Yeah, for the
has a lot more
presidency. Yeah.
influence, and so then what happens is the individual's votes doesn't really matter unless the entire state votes the same way.
Hmm.
But in our time, we do it. A computer is manages all voting, and so what it does is you put in your vote to the computer system, and then
Hmm.
it'll literally calculate every single individual vote instead of rather senators and things like that.
Yeah.
Everybody just votes on their own.
Yeah, it seems like a good system. And the
It's a
Electoral
lot
College,
more
yeah,
fair.
the Electoral College is present in the U.S. And in the future, are there any other countries?
No, there is just one world government.
Okay, could you give us like a time frame of when that happens? When we shift to a one world government?
About 2090.
Okay. How about
Yeah,
life?
in 2090,
Yeah.
an alien civilization arrives, and they give us a choice to either join their government, where we will be taken care of and protected,
Oh my God.
but
So,
we have to follow their rules,
okay. So
or
the alien,
we
yeah.
or they take us over.
So the alien civilization who comes, are they far more advanced than us?
Some of them are, and some of them are not.
Okay. Do they give us more technology, more advanced technology that aids in?
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry,
Oh,
are you
yep.
there?
Yep, I'm here. No problem.
Okay.
Mm.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, that
Yes, they do.
yeah. So the one world government exists in the United States. I mean on Earth. But is there a one world government? Does it encapsulate all the other planets on the solar system that people are living on?
The single government encapsulates the entirety of both the human population and the Zetan population,
Okay.
and one other race one other race of aliens that I cannot pronounce. So those species are the Zetans and the this species of, like, I can only describe them as being completely engulfed in flames, but the flames are cold.
Okay.
And the Zetans are actually the gray aliens that you guys see most of the time.
Okay, so they're actually visiting Earth right now in the year 2017.
Yes.
Okay. Why did they choose the
The
year
point of
2090 to interfere?
Because what they're doing now and what they've been doing is checking in on the planet every once in a while, seeing when we're ready to take the next step.
Okay. So are these aliens?
Indeed.
Yeah, are these aliens? Are they biological creatures or that evolved on another planet, or are they AI?
The Zetans are biological creatures that were developed on other planet in the other side of the Milky Way galaxy.
Okay, so they're from the same galaxy. So we do have life within our galaxy.
Yes.
Okay. What about the other species of aliens? Are they biological?
The flaming ones are completely made of hydrogen and this one other chemical that I don't remember the name of. But those two chemicals somehow produce a cold flame.
Okay.
And so that's what they're made of.
So hydrogen-based life is possible.
Yes.
Okay. Because we're a carbon-based life. And what about artificial intelligence in the future? Is there a silicon-based life that's conscious?
It's been looked into.
Okay. Could you give us any details about it, or?
I would rather not give too many details about how artificial intelligence is made or things like that, or what it's made out of, because artificial intelligence is still in its birthing point.
Yeah.
In 2017.
All right. I understand. What about people who come back in time to the past? Can a person visit him or herself? Can there be two versions of one person at once? And can they interact with each other without causing a paradox?
Yes, but not in the conventional sense.
Okay.
I mean, if you were to travel back in time, like if I were to travel from 2046 and go to now to visit myself while I'm still in the government, then it might make certain choices that I make in the future be different, and so therefore that person that when the older version of myself went back, he might find different than the one who left.
So it could cause like infinite ripples.
Not infinite, but it could cause small changes.
Okay. Fascinating. So if we went back in time, like say if someone from the year 2017 went back in time to the year 1800 or something, and they showed them our technology, our laptops, our smartphones, they would think it's magical. If we fast forward to the year 4126, do you have certain technologies that people in 2017 would consider magical?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Would we be even able to comprehend? Because I know someone in the 1800s would never be able to comprehend what a smartphone is, for example. Would we be able to comprehend the technology in 4126?
Some of it, and some of it I doubt.
Okay. What about on the subject of comprehending? Do we have so to say upgrades for our brain? Can we connect our brains wirelessly to the cloud, like many futurists right now think is going to be possible?
Yes, but it takes practice. It's not something that anyone can just simply do whenever they want to do it.
Okay.
What happens is you sit down and you have to really meditate for hours at a time and focus on what you want to transfer to the cloud or what you want to get out of it.
And is this after
and then
you
eventually
have a biological implant?
Yeah, you have a small biological chip in the lower side, the lower back portion of your brain,
Okay.
close to the spinal cord.
Interesting. Okay. And it does take practice to be able to actually
It does take
interact with the
practice. It
cloud.
takes a lot of focus.
Okay. Does it enhance ourselves? Are we able to, for example, draw any information we want? Like, could we access Wikipedia or other databases so we can just think, oh, who's the president in whatever year, and instantly be able to know?
I mean, I guess you could do that if that's what you wanted to use it for,
Yeah.
but most people only use it for information that they usually cannot find by any other means.
Okay. Yeah, how long is the process of accessing that information?
For some people that have trained with it for years, it might take 30 minutes.
Okay.
For someone your first time ever doing it, it might take you 6 hours.
Okay, so, and that's just for, is it large-scale information like videos or anything? Or is that even just knowing simple facts too?
Usually it's for large scale information,
Okay.
but not videos or anything like that. Usually, like, if you wanted to, like, for some of our agents, sometimes will download a book of like ancient human history,
Oh, I see.
and then come back to now,
Mhm.
so that they can acclimate themselves appropriately and not seem ridiculously out of place.
I see. So they download
Some of the
information from our
technology
time.
now,
Yeah.
yeah, some of the technology that you have now is so old to us that without downloading those books, we would have no idea how to use it.
Yeah, and I figure interacting with different people, like you interacting with me from the year 2017 would be different than how you would interact with someone from the year 2146.
Exactly.
Is talking a an ancient way of communicating? In the future, are you able to use telepathic thought, or do you still talk?
In the future, we are able to use telepathy with the aid of technology, but we still talk because speech is still valued as one of the great art forms.
Interesting. Okay. So I see you have a lot of notes there. Would you mind going through some of the things you want to talk about, or?
Sure. So one thing I could talk about is the food.
Yeah, I'd love to know about that.
Food is going to, yeah. Okay, so food.
Mhm.
One thing I'll really miss about your time is food.
Okay.
What we have in the future, you might describe as a protein bar. It usually consists of the daily values of each vitamin combined with 20 grams of protein and then an artificial flavoring of the food that it is meant to be.
Okay.
Now, I'm not saying they're bad. After having tried the source foods in your time, I can say for certainty that they actually taste exactly the same.
Okay.
It's just the texture is way
I
different.
see, because it's all in a bar.
Exactly, and so it's not very good. The point of food being made like this is not because we are trying to make it healthier or anything like that. It's only because of storage.
I see.
Space is like having space to put things in the future is a huge problem because of how densely populated every city
Yeah,
is.
and every planet too.
Every planet.
Okay.
Every planet is populated a lot, but thankfully Mars and Venus are not overpopulated. Earth is the only overpopulated planet.
Is every single planet within our solar system populated with at least one human?
No.
Okay.
Jupiter is impossible to populate because it has no
I
surface.
see. What about Pluto?
Pluto's too cold. We do have a military base on Pluto, but not anything that you could live for more than a year or two at a time.
Yeah. So has you mentioned Venus?
So freezing cold.
Yeah, you mentioned Venus and Mars. Have those two planets been terraformed?
Terraformed, yes.
Okay, so you are actually able to live there without any without wearing any suits or anything.
Yes, you are.
Okay.
But that only not having to wear a suit on Mars and Venus is actually a more recent development.
Okay. What about other planets like Mercury or any other planets within our solar system that humans are living on?
Mercury is with cities that hang over the giant craters in Mercury. Mercury is a very craterous and very rocky surface. So what we did is, instead of trying to build cities on uneven terrain, we just dug out more of the craters and made them deeper, and then just put cities that are kind of, I guess I would say floating, but it's not really floating. It's like they're tied to the walls of the crater almost.
I see.
And that's almost like a city sitting on top of a spider web.
I see. Yeah, it's built around the walls of the craters.
Exactly. And so built around the walls of a crater is kind of like a donut, where the walls of the crater is like this, and then the city just comes in from that.
I see. I see. Are there different layers to those cities and levels?
Yes, there are. There's about 4 layers to each one of those cities.
So do you make artificial light then, like at the bottom levels? Okay.
Yes, we do. What we usually do is, for warmth, because when you get to low enough in a certain body's atmosphere that doesn't have a heat core, like Mercury, the core of Mercury is a lot smaller than that of Earth, and so what we do is we have giant fires underneath the cities, because these craters are thousands of feet down, and so what we'll have the first like couple 100 feet of the crater be the first layer of the city.
Yeah.
And then, or like the first couple 100 miles, I mean.
Oh, I see.
And then and because these are like 1,000-mile craters, and so what happens is the first couple 100 miles is the first 2 layers of the city, and then the next couple 100 miles is the other 2 layers, and the rest of it is just fire, because it's is either fire or other. Like sometimes if it gets too hot, we'll put ice instead.
Yeah.
And so we'll cool it down.
Do we harness the energy
and so
from
temperature
that fire?
control those. Yes, we do. We get energy from it, as well as but the only problem with it is we have temperature control systems that are relatively new, and so those actually take a lot of maintenance.
Okay, and you mentioned space was an issue, and I assume it'd be a huge issue on Earth too, due to the fact that it's our base planet. Are people utilizing the oceans for cities on Earth?
Yes, they are.
Okay, are they living underwater?
Every single place on Earth has human population on it.
Interesting.
That whether it's the islands or the oceans or the continents or the Antarctica and the Arctic, everything is populated.
Okay. Even the very bottoms of the oceans?
Yes. The best way I can describe the problem of overpopulation is Bartlett's Beaker. Bartlett's Beaker is something that actually was thought up in your time, and what it says is if you put a microorganism or a bacteria into a beaker, and that bacteria divides once every minute. If you put in that bacteria at 11 o'clock and it's full by 12 o'clock, at what time is it half full? The answer is 11:59, and so that's called the minute to midnight property. And so the minute to midnight property states that every year after a certain point, the human population doubles.
So exponential growth, in other words.
Exactly, exponential growth. And so to fight this, we've actually had it where the lowest tier intelligence level of humanity is sent off to be in the military, but not in the military of what I'm doing. More just like average wars and fighting.
I see.
And so that's what we do with the lesser intelligent population.
Okay, so you have ways of measuring the intelligence in the future?
Yes.
Okay. Is there anything else you have on your notes that you'd like to talk about right now?
I noticed in a lot of your videos you talk about us wearing hoodies. And the reason behind that is the color. Yeah, the color and the color of the hoodie actually defines rank. Gray is for the average foot soldiers. Black is for the level just above that, and then there's green, which is what I'm wearing.
Okay.
And the reason we wear hoodies is hoodies obscure the face enough that from far away that it's hard to figure out who the person is while not looking suspicious. Yeah. It is deemed that most people wore hoodies in the years leading up to the invention of time travel. So for this reason, our agents use wearable technology woven into the fabric of the interior of the hoodies. And so that wearable technology is technology such as First of all, it can absorb the impact of certain layers of bullets, and so like if you, let's say someone shot me with a 22 rifle in this time, it would probably be absorbed by the hoodie and wouldn't penetrate my skin. And so that's something that we develop pretty soon after the invention of time travel.
So they also act as
another thing that it does is, yes, and another thing it does is in the video that you have of I think it was I don't actually remember what the date stamp on it was, but a motorcycle is about to get hit by a truck, and someone rushes in and saves him by teleportation.
Oh, that one took place in Japan, supposedly.
Yes. What that is that's actually not teleportation. That's two different technologies. The way he moves into the frame is hyper movement, and that's another technology that the hoodies afford us.
Okay.
Because certain threads made of a certain type of metal that I'm not allowed to tell you about is woven into the fabric of the hoodie to allow us to move quicker than normal humans.
Okay.
And so that's how the man arrives at the motorcycle, and then the way that they teleport is actually called a time hop, which is where you move 1 or 2 seconds into the future into a different location, though.
I see.
And so it looks like teleportation, but really it's just time travel. If you noticed on the footage, the date stamp, while the event is taking place, the date stamp constantly jumps seconds. Like it'll skip certain seconds. I think it goes from like 1, 2, 4, and then like 5, 7, 9, or something like that. And all of that is like signs of time hops.
So the technology woven into the clothing that you wear affects security cameras in the area that are picking it up?
No, the security cameras are affected by the fact that it's a time travel, not the fact that we're moving at hyperspeed.
I see. Okay. Speaking of the videos that we've posted, and we've interviewed a couple of people who claim to be time travelers who've seen the future. Is there anybody you've seen in those videos who isn't a time traveler? The
Yellow Hat Man.
Okay, so our most recent one?
Yeah, your most recent one, that guy's not actually a time traveler.
All right, so he was making it up. And I had suspicions about that guy, too, due to the fact that he wasn't going into much detail about different aspects. So, over via email, you told me that there was a big upcoming event that humans right now need to be focusing on. Could you give us a little bit more detail into what's coming up? You said that the 20th and 21st centuries are a very important landmark in humankind.
The 20th and 21st centuries are a giant landmark in human history because of the fact that this is when you develop time travel, and this is when you decide what to do with it.
Okay.
Certain timelines have the human race discover time travel and then figure that they can go back in time and bomb their enemies so that they never have to fight them in the first place.
I see.
And that ends up with the human race bombing itself into nothingness. Another timeline that we're trying to avoid is one where Hitler uses time travel to go back or one of Hitler's men in 2028 goes back and grabs him from the past so that he can come to the future and continue with his mission.
And these are all
That's another thing we're trying to avoid.
These are all possible scenarios that we could be in.
These are all possible scenarios of what happens. What happens when the human race discovers time travel. And so what we're trying to do is we're trying to make sure that the human race makes the right decision as to what time travel should be used for.
Okay. So what should humans be focusing right now in the year 2017, almost the year 2018? What should we be focusing on as a species technology-wise?
Technology-wise, I would highly recommend investing in... I actually made a section about this.
Okay.
Metaskin is a technology developed recently in your time, what it does is these small metal rings absorb radar frequencies so that whatever's covered in it cannot be seen on radar. I would highly recommend investing in that technology, because in the future, that technology gets developed further into being complete invisibility.
I see. And how does that benefit us?
We're able to use it for cloaking devices, for our spaceships, for lots of different satellites, for things like that, so that we can send probes into far-off space without ever having them be intercepted or damaged by alien species that might want to do us harm.
Okay.
And there's other uses for that as well, but I'm not allowed to tell you those.
All right. Because it would cause too big of an impact?
I don't want to cause mass panic.
I see. So there's been a lot of people who make predictions about the future. One of the most prominent ones was Nostradamus. Was Nostradamus a time traveler?
We don't really know much about Nostradamus.
Okay.
It's thought that he was getting messages from a time traveler, but another theory that we have is that he was simply psychic.
All right. What about the future?
Because in the future we have confirmed the existence of certain paranormal things, such as ghosts, psychics, and the afterlife.
Interesting. And do they exist in a separate dimension? I've heard proposed that could be the case.
No.
Okay. So there is actually a scientific understanding of what some people thought was once mystical.
For some of it, I mean, it's not another dimension. It's more a perception issue.
Okay.
The human mind cannot perceive what it does not understand, as far as the paranormal. And so certain people have been taught how to understand the concept of ghosts and other paranormal activities like that, which allow them to then perceive those activities.
I see. Okay. Well, one of the most famous time traveler interviews we've done was with a man named Alexander Smith, and he recently contacted us saying that, well, if we first asked him, do you know anybody by the name of Slim? And he said that you were a common leader in a lot of the time travel missions. So could you speak about your role a little bit?
Yeah, I'm a very common. He is right. I am a common leader amongst most of the time travel missions, because of the fact that when I was selected for time travel, this is actually not my first mission back into the past.
Okay.
I've been here lots of times. And so the reason that I'm a common leader is because I've been exposed to the technology of time travel a lot, due to the fact that I've had to visit times, briefly had to visit times all over the past, well, I guess for you, the future 2,000 years.
Okay.
And so, tweaking time travel, making sure that people make the right decisions, making sure that certain criminals that are trying to use it for illegal reasons are foiled, things like that. And so I'm commonly used for missions on time travel because of the fact that I know the technology really well and that I have a lot of experience with it.
I see. So your main goal is to for the betterment of mankind, right?
Exactly.
Okay. I was thinking maybe we could get both you and Alexander Smith in on a single interview. Would you be maybe open to doing that in the future? Like, you could be on Skype and we could have him on Skype and then I could be moderating it.
I would prefer not to.
Okay, and why is that?
Because Alexander Smith is not a member of the agency that I work for.
Yeah, he did it
Alexander
back
Smith
in,
is one.
the 81, I think.
Exactly. 1981, the first instance of the earliest instance of true time travel was 1981. Alexander Smith.
Yeah.
The way that it happened is he arrived in our time, and we were immediately notified of it. We actually have systems in place. I happened to be in the year 2118 when he arrived. And in the year 2118, they have lots of systems that I've put in place so that when a time traveler arrives in that time, the government immediately gets notified. This is due to something that happens. I'm not allowed to say what, but something that happens before then, where someone tries to use time travel to mess things up in a big way, so to speak. And so that's why we put those systems in place. But he is not actually part of our government, and so I'd rather not be having an open conversation about things that involve ongoing missions or secrets or anything else with someone that is not authorized for that. Apex TV has been granted specific permission by the director to be allowed to video these specific conversations, but this is not a conversation that I would be having with any other YouTube channel or any other civilian person.
And let me just say, on behalf of the entire team here at Apex TV, we're eternally grateful that that you have trust in us, and we're going to try our best, because we understand that you're trying to do this for the betterment of mankind, and we would like to aid in that in whatever ways are possible. So, yeah, we just want to say we're honored.
Well, thank you for that. It's an honor to be here with Apex TV.
Yeah. What about, we interviewed a guy who claims to be from the year 2055. Are you, how are you affiliated with him?
We have time travelers coming from all years, starting from 2028 all the way up until my time. And so what happens with agents like that is that they arrive in the year 2000, and then they usually conduct whatever business they're here to do. With the aid of getting supplies and other aid from myself and other people of my position, and then they return to their own times.
Yeah. I see. Would you be interested in doing a interview with him? Maybe we could get him on Skype or something, and I could moderate it.
I could do that.
Okay.
I personally was not the agent that he worked with.
Okay.
But I could be in an interview with him if you'd like.
Yeah, maybe we could clear some things up and get different perspectives from where you are from the future and from the point in time in which he is. I've actually reached out to him regarding you, but he hasn't replied to me yet. So it would be great to do an interview with both of you at the same time, maybe in the near future.
All right. Okay. Yeah, just if you end up getting a response from him, fine. You might not, though.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly when, but it's sometime either in the near future or the recent past he was sent back.
Yeah, I'm not sure if he is actually in the year 2017 currently.
Yeah,
he might have.
Neither am I.
Might have time traveled. And speaking of the actual process of time traveling, does time travel have any kind of physical harm or physical effect on the human body?
Once upon a time it did, but we've since been able to counteract those side effects.
Okay. So it's basically a proven process now.
Yes.
Because I remember when we were sitting down with Alexander Smith after the interview was done, he told us about some pain in his legs and different parts of his body. But that was the first experimental.
Yes, it was.
So that could explain that. Anything else from your notes you want to talk about right now?
Just is there any other questions you have of any kind?
I think I've gone through pretty much all the questions that I have. One of them is: are there any other planets or even solar systems or galaxies in which humans are living in the future?
Yes. We have colonized our leg. I guess we could call it our leg of the Milky Way galaxy.
Okay.
When you look at a map of the Milky Way galaxy, you see a spiral, and so our individual spiral part, we've conquered, or we've inhabited 1/4 of our leg.
Mm-hmm. I see. Would it be possible
But that's
for any
mostly
of the
because
time
the
travelers to bring back any kind of definitive proof, like an artifact or something, or a picture from the future?
uh I don't know about a picture, but there is one piece of technology that I have been allowed to show you.
Really?
And that's yes. And this is mostly because there's no actual way for one of your viewers to prove without a doubt that this is
Yeah.
true. And that's why I've been allowed to tell you that about technology. So in the future, depression gets to become a really, really big problem due to food shortages and other things like that. And so just quality of life starts to go down really quickly at some
I
point.
see.
I'm not allowed to say when, but when that happens, certain scientists come up with a way to counteract that, which is really effective, like lighting that the exact like the color and the frequency of the lighting in the future is that which relaxes the eyes and relaxes the mind so that you can feel more at ease,
I see.
and things like that. It's just lots of technologies like that. And also we get totems, which is you pick a shape or a design that you want,
Mm-hmm.
and then some of them, when you hold it in your hand, you feel a little bit more happy because what it does is it sends signals to your brain to release endorphins. And so one of those things, what I use is this actually. It's a spinning top,
So that's actually
and
from the
what it
future.
yes it is. And what this is I
Oh.
spin it, and if you stare at it while it's spinning,
Uh-huh.
then the signals get transferred to your brain so that it can release
So
endorphins.
while it's spinning like on a table or something?
Um, yes, like
Oh.
for example,
So how does that correlate with your brain? How does that send signals?
like that.
Okay.
And what it does is there's a tiny microchip in the center of this
Mm-hmm.
device with a transmitter, and that transmitter is what sends the signals.
I see. So the signals are being sent and then penetrating your skull even and going straight into your brain?
Yeah. But it's a process where it only works if you're purposely trying to have it work.
I see.
So like if you're staring at it, and if you're staring at it and you don't want it to work, it won't work.
Okay.
Because the signals, it privacy as far as the mind is very important in my time because of the fact that external privacy is almost non-existent.
Yeah.
So your thoughts are really your only private space, and so that's why devices like this have to be monitored in such a way that they don't force you to feel a certain way.
I see.
You know, they only work if you want them
They
to
have to go by
because of the
certain
fact that we
guidelines of invading the human mind.
exactly. You know, we don't want to break people's internal privacy.
Yeah. Do people have in the future? Do you have contact lenses that can record video?
Yes, but they've become a lot smaller and the technology has become much more advanced. So now they don't just record video, but they also record your life signs, your brain pattern, to make sure that you're not overstressed and things like that. Also your heart rate and things, all of those things. And they're all coordinated into the time travel device that usually sits on your wrist, which can be disguised as any modern or ancient wristwatch.
Yeah. Let's talk about medical for a second and medical advances in the future. Are we able to grow organs and replace them in somebody? If say you had a faulty kidney
Yes.
or something.
Yeah, that technology gets developed in the early 31st century.
Okay.
But eventually that technology even gets antiquated, and we move on to a technology where, much like what you see in the movie Elysium,
Yeah, I haven't
where
seen
you
it.
lay on a table and a machine fixes you.
Okay.
And so for as far as like disease, like for instance, my aunt got cancer the other week, and she went to the doctor, and they just did the process, and then the cancer was gone.
Wow. So we will be able to get rid of what in 2017 are life-threatening diseases.
Yes.
Wow.
In the year 4126, disease is no longer an issue.
So now that disease isn't an issue in the year 4126, Do you have to put limits on how many kids somebody can have?
Yes and no. On Earth, yes,
Mm-hmm.
but if you're on one of the other planets, then there is not that restriction.
Okay, so because that those planets aren't that overpopulated.
Because the Earth is the only planet that's overpopulated. Yeah, the Earth is the only planet that's overpopulated,
Okay,
and so that's why Earth is the only one that you can have that you have restrictions for that.
I see. And what are the restrictions?
One child per family.
Okay. So there's always a net loss of a individual because two becomes
Exactly.
one. So you're just trying to get that
Hmm.
sorted out to make life quality on Earth better?
Exactly.
Okay. But there isn't that restriction for all the other galaxies. And are there currently in the year 4126 are there extraterrestrials living in harmony with humans on Earth or any other planets in the solar system?
There are planets that are mixed, but
Mhm.
there are also planets that are only humans. And this is not due to racial segregation. This is simply due to the fact that certain species would prefer to live on planets that aren't massively populated by mostly
I see.
humans.
And I would assume that they would also want to live on planets in which they have evolved to live on properly too.
Exactly. Certain planets are more hospitable
Hmm.
towards alien races than others.
I see. And we've kind of taken it into our own hands of terraforming some of other planets in the future, just for us.
Yes. Each race has its own form of terraforming that works for them. And then the empire itself also has terraforming properties that it can make communal planets that is fit for anyone.
I see. A lot of futurists in this time talk about an event called the singularity, or like a technological singularity, and they hypothesize that the invention of artificial superintelligence will trigger a runaway technology growth resulting in humans and technology converging into one. Do you see that happening in the near future in the year 4126?
Machines and biological life are still very much
I
separate.
see. And is that due to purpose?
Yes, that's on
Okay,
purpose.
because you don't want a singularity.
No, we do not, because if humans and machines became one, then we would lose what it means to be human.
I see. But are there proponents of that in the future who think that they should merge? Okay.
There are proponents of that in the future that say that human life would extend by much longer amounts if we
Hmm.
converged, but it is still held true that actually there's a popular phrase for it, and which is the ground is meant for humans and the sky is meant for machines.
I see.
That's what we say, and pretty much this is because like what Alexander Smith described, robots don't have legs in the future.
I
They
see.
they float much like, I'm not even sure that you have a reference that I could point out,
Hmm.
but imagine if a human had two rockets on the bottom of its legs instead that just allowed it to hover.
Hmm.
And just like a regular torso for the regular body for the rest of the human, except instead of legs, it had two rockets. That's what robots look like in the future.
Okay. Um. So they take steps to make robots different than humans in the future.
Hmm.
And that is that due to people voting, the vast majority of people wanting humans to be separated from machines?
Yes, most people do not like the idea of humans and machines being one.
I see.
Yeah, and so and also because originally when robots were first invented, or as far as like AI human-like robots,
Hmm.
they were invented to look exactly like humans, but it ended up making humanity feel very, very disturbed and uncomfortable around robots
Yeah.
because it felt like the robots were trying to be something they weren't.
Hmm.
And so instead of having them try to be humans, we prefer that they be the best robots that they can be.
Yeah. So mankind has long hypothesized that there are an infinite number of universes. In the future, have you confirmed this hypothesis to be true?
We have absolutely confirmed the multiverse theory.
Wow. So there are, in fact, an infinite number of universes?
There's an infinite number of parallel universes,
I
yes.
see. Is there any method in the year 4126 to travel in between these universes?
Not directly.
Okay.
The way that works is, this also explains why some of the time traveler stories that you hear do not correlate with each other, such as the man from the year 3000, for instance.
Yeah.
When he was talking about everybody uploading their brains to the computers,
Yeah.
what happened is, at some point in the future, mankind decides not to pursue uploading their brains to the internet and instead pursue having AI and humans be two separate races.
Okay.
And so what happens is the parallel version of that is the man from the year 3000.
Yeah.
But the way that you travel between these two universes is by going back in time to before the decision was made, and then just riding it out on the other path.
I see. So, yeah, it's kind of hard for me to even comprehend this.
Okay, well, here, let me draw something for you that might help.
Okay.
Okay, so if you are in 2017 here, and then this is the timeline, and then here is 2146, just for example. Yeah. So you're here, and then originally, if you wanted to go to this 2146, let's say this is my timeline.
Okay.
And then let's say over here is year 3000 man's timeline.
Yeah.
Okay, so if he wanted to go to this one, all he would have to do is from here, or from here,
yeah,
time travel back to here, and then just simply ride out the other path.
Oh, I see. I see. So,
Okay.
so they branch off all the different.
Exactly.
Wow. Okay.
Like, every decision branches off a new path.
So
every single decision you make in your everyday
life. Yeah, so
life.
it's pretty much an infinite number of different paths that are being created at every moment.
Exactly.
Wow, yeah, it's the first time I've heard it explained like that. It really is mind-blowing.
Yeah, well, the reason that people aren't explaining it like that now is because the multiverse theory is still widely accepted as not true.
Yeah.
And so people aren't exploring the potential uses of it, or the potential of how it works, or things like that, because they're not interested.
I see. Wow, yeah, that really does change things when you look at it that way.
Mm-hmm. One thing that I can think of right now, I did mention that the entire Earth is populated by humans, which implies that plant life has been extinct on Earth.
Yeah.
And this is true. And so the way we get oxygen on Earth is through oxygen scrubbers, and we actually have. You guys are using this technology on the International Space Station right now, I think.
Yeah, probably.
Which is the way this works is electrolysis of water, H2O, is the main method to generate oxygen. Water is split into oxygen, O2, and hydrogen, H2. The oxygen is vented into the atmosphere, while the hydrogen is teleported into open space.
Okay. And now that you brought up,
because we do have teleportation.
So that's.
We do have teleportation in our time. But we never use it for organic life, because what it does is it breaks down whatever is being teleported and then creates a copy of it somewhere else.
And then it's not really you if you were to teleport a human.
Exactly.
I see. So now that you brought up plants, I just remembered that are there animals like for example dogs and cats, or are there sea creatures still in the future?
Lots of ocean life does unfortunately become endangered, and the ones that would have gone extinct are instead moved to planets that we have discovered that are complete water worlds.
Okay. So there are actually water worlds. Like I've heard it hypothesized that Saturn's moon Titan actually contains a lot of water that is under ice. And
Yes, this is true.
yeah, so yeah, I just want to thank you for coming on today. I want to thank you for coming on today. I really appreciate it. Um, yeah, thanks for
You're
taking the
very
time out of
welcome.
your day to talk to us, and it really is an honor that you chose to talk to us.
Yeah, we chose to talk to you because in the future, like what Agent 12 said, Apex TV becomes a giant news station,
Mm-hmm.
which is it's actually a giant media company called Apex Media.
Okay.
Much like what you see in one of the episodes of Doctor Who, the Bad Wolf telecommunications
Yeah, I'm not
station.
familiar.
That well, I'm sure that your viewers will look it up
Yeah.
later, but what it is it's a news station where it's a satellite in space, and every single piece of information travels through that satellite. That is the same concept we use in 4126 for the Apex TV station. It's a satellite in space where Apex TV works and lives, and they process all information from that place and transmit it to your television systems and other forms of communication and news on Earth and other planets.
Okay. So is the actual content itself, is it produced by humans in the future, or does AI produce any
Yeah.
of it?
The actual what happens is journalists and human workers and editors and all
Yeah.
that do exist. But what happens is a journalist will go out and they'll tape the story, and then they'll send it to the editor who will edit it, and then it'll be sent to an AI that will sort it in a bank of information so that it can then have it sent under the right topics to the right news channel. Because there's thousands upon thousands of channels, so it's just too much information for a human to sort through it all.
I see. So
So humans work on the individual stories, but the AI is the one that decides when and where that story gets placed.
And speaking of content, what is the future of content? Are people going to be spending a lot of time in virtual reality in the future, or are they going to be I don't know, interfacing with augmented reality in any way?
Both of those technologies do exist in the future, both augmented and virtual
Mm-hmm.
reality. Virtual reality is usually done in such a way where you enter a room, you're not actually wearing any technology, and there's no glasses or anything like that. You enter the room, and then the entire room changes around you to represent the virtual reality that you want to be in. You can touch it and feel it and all those other
Wow.
things because the signals are sent to your brain, just like what I talked about when I was showing you that top. And so those signals then tell your brain that you're feeling and seeing certain things when really they're not there.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I
And then augmented reality is much like Google Glass,
yeah.
but instead of a glass, it's a contact lens, like what you saw in The Man from
Yeah, that's
2055.
what you described.
Those contact lenses are just the advanced version, like I talked about earlier in this video.
Okay. Well, I want to thank you for taking your time out today to do this interview. I think that wraps it up for now. I'm looking forward to the Q&A, as I'm sure all the viewers are. Thanks for taking your time out today.
You're very welcome. I'll be very happy to return later.
That sounds great. You have a good day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, bye.